So, we good?
I think so. Are we good to go?
Yes, fine.
That's very odd. We can't see you.
Just as well because I'm in my pajamas.
Ah.
This is very odd because we don't have a camera either because we stopped doing visuals altogether.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't have anything to look at other than some flowers across the table.
Yeah. Or you're dead.
No one wants to look at that.
Oh, thanks.
Hello, Internet. I'm Firebolt.
And I'm the Orbiter.
And
I'm Peetronics.
Yay!
Hello again.
Welcome once more.
we got him back. he
Nice
wasn't
to be back.
scared off.
Not at all. This is. I think I already said that numerous times. I really enjoy that chatting about stuff. So yes.
Very specific. If you did watch or more probably listen to the podcast episode, which is episode 30, this is episode 34, 33.
Metronome's on. Sorry.
Okay, Jesus Christ, you're so unprofessional.
I don't know why that is. I'm going to have to look into the settings on Logic. Sorry.
It just starts a metronome.
It doesn't
You just
always.
you just have to get used to that.
It's just that
It does always, you just don't always hear it.
I must have it set to automatically on in that template.
Musicians
I know.
be like.
I know.
Anyway, is this episode 33?
I don't know. Is it?
I know that podcast was episode 30, so surely it can't be 34.
Violence has already gone out.
That was 31.
Gender's next, and then
That's
it'll be this
32.
one.
Right, so this is 33.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
Welcome to episode 33.
Yeah. Before we
unbelievable.
start, what are you drinking?
I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, for
but,
fuck's sake! The
it's-
bottle's in the fridge, isn't it?
It's a fancy lager. I've got it in a glass.
It's an IPA.
And the actual lager's in a glass bottle, which means
Well,
it's fancy.
See, when you get a refill, you'll have to bring the bottle through, and we can actually see what it is. I'm drinking.
That's
What about you, Pate? What are you on
Fancy
tonight?
French name.
I skipped the beer for tonight. I'm on to a lovely red from France, a Côte-du-Rhône village.
Ooh,
I have no idea what that means.
he's got red wine.
Cool.
French red wine from 2016. I don't think anything fancy. It's just from the Aldi, but hey ho.
Well, it's alcoholic,
Yep.
and I'm on Brewdog Clockwork Tangerine Citrus Session IPA.
Good. I'm not a big fan of IPAs.
No?
I once went to a beer festival in Huntley in the Gordon Arms Hotel,
Right.
and there was somebody there, and he said, "Oh, I don't like beers these days. They all taste like grapefruit."
Oh,
And since then, I cannot untaste
Is it a
that,
bit
and
like
especially in IPAs.
energy drinks?
Yes.
it's interesting.
I can smell it.
I was actually looking for that 5 a.m. stuff because I need some caffeine in my beer at the moment. Anyway, what are we talking about?
A high recommendation then is try one of the Fierce beers. Fierce beer is also a local brewery from Dice.
All right, okay.
And they've got a lovely coffee porter.
I'm not sure if I've had that one, but I think I have actually. I think,
I think it's called Cafe Racer or something like that.
excuse me, sorry. I think, what's his name brought it in? Drummer, used to work at the distillery.
Colin.
Sorry?
Colin.
Yeah,
Colin.
Colin. Yeah, Colin let me have a taste of that, and that was rather nice
Yes.
from what I remember.
Anyway, if we're done talking about our drinks,
Yes.
on to today's subject.
Yes, indeed.
Today, we will be talking about science.
Cool. A subject very close to my heart.
This is going to be a geek fest, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know.
Depends on which from which angle you want to approach it.
I'm Robin Ince in this conversation, I think.
Well, you always surprise me.
I'm definitely not Brian Cox in this one.
I feel like I'll maybe sound like it to some people, but I'm just as clueless. I just sort of, I think I just sort of have a knack for science. Which,
I know a fair bit about sound, but that's kind of, apart from that, me and science are kind of.
I suppose that does help with waves in general, and
Yes.
that's use. He just waved at me like that's useless for an audio form.
Uh-huh. So I was wondering, is this because I specifically didn't ask you to any pointers? So I go into this conversation very open-minded. This is so, as I said, so you can approach it from a lot of different angles.
Yeah.
So I let you take the lead on that.
Right.
Come on,
Okay. The first thing that comes to my mind is science denialism.
Okay.
So yeah.
the likes of anti-vaxxers and flat earthers.
Yep.
Yeah,
That sort of level.
If you say that, is Donald Trump completely comes to my mind. Is this if it suits him? Is this he doesn't know about research and that sort of stuff? If the figures don't turn out.
Well,
I saw a recent. I think he had opened, or he was trying to sort of turn people against wind energy, and he said the noise can cause cancer.
the noise.
I would say it's much more likely that the fumes from a coal plant would cause you cancer, but screw any truth. It's sort of in this post-Trump thing.
Well, what I find quite strange as well, though, is that whole attitude of having, Michael Gove's had enough of the experts thing. God. But is he not the Environment Secretary at the moment?
Yes.
It's like,
I think, well, the cabinet changes a lot.
Okay. So sorry for me mentioning Trump because this is already turning into a political rant again.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably talk quite a bit about how science does relate to politics, particularly in areas of like climate science.
I would imagine religion will pop up at some point as well.
Oh yeah, always fun. Okay.
Well,
so first of all,
yes.
Flat earthers. Are you aware of this phenomenon?
Yes. They've got followers in every corner of the world.
Or in one of their tweets, we have followers all around the globe.
Around the world. Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, Terry Pratchett was a flat earther, wasn't he?
No, he
wrote
created
all about Discworld.
But writing fiction about a world that is flat does not make you believe in the fiction that you create. George R.R. Martin doesn't believe there are zombies.
Well, that takes us back to religion then, doesn't it? Because
well, that's different because they've had like epileptic fits and think they're seeing visions from God. But
so I don't get the flat Earth thing. I don't understand. Maybe we should have thought of this and had a flat earther on to explain to us the logic behind it.
Recently, I think there was a documentary on Netflix about flat earthers called, I think it's called Behind the Curve. I haven't watched it. I've seen little snippets of it. One of the, I think, interesting things was there was a woman who held a talk show where she talked about her beliefs with other flat earthers and shit like that. And basically the conclusion that she had to come to fit flat earth into her worldview was that if she didn't get her legs blown off at the Boston bombing, that wasn't real.
What, the Boston bombing wasn't real because she didn't get her leg blown off?
Yeah, so sort of that idea of you have to personally witness everything to believe it.
Well, is that not one of the questions when thinking about quantum mechanics about the tree falling in a forest and stuff like that? No.
Does it make a sound or what?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't actually. If a tree falls in a forest and there's nobody there, it doesn't make a sound.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but okay, what?
You can put a microphone there and you'll still hear it.
Yeah, but you're then perceiving it. What it does is it creates sound waves, but if there's no receiver there...
There were cameras at the Boston Marathon where that happened.
Yeah, but they are witnesses. They are...
Yes.
They are witnesses. If something happens and there's no receiving mechanism to witness it. There is
Well,
no way for the effect to be measured from anywhere.
That's the idea of science, to recreate, and sometimes the idea is to recreate the conditions of something that happen, like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Recreate that virtually so that we can understand how this came to be.
I think
our universe.
The specific example of the tree in the forest and the sound waves is not about whether or not the phenomenon which we know as sound happens. It's about the language. Sound is something which is perceived. Sound waves are the scientific phenomenon that is perceived.
The idea is, if we witness a tree that looks like it's fallen down, we've tested other trees falling down, we see that they make a sound, we presume that, like other tests of trees falling down...
They don't make a sound, they make sound waves. Sound is perceived sound waves.
Well, that just gets down into semantics, though.
Yeah, that's what I said, language.
But they do make a sound, because if you test it again and you are perceiving a sound, you assume that that tree that fell down that you weren't around to perceive.
Well, no, because the conditions of the test are different from the original event, because you're there.
Well, it still produces sound waves.
No, it produces sound waves. It does both times, but it's not converted into sound unless something measures it, such as a human being or a microphone.
Yeah, but the idea is to test it. To test all other examples of trees falling down and going, but that must have made sound waves. If I was there, I would have perceived sound.
But that is the principle of quantum mechanics, is that by being a witness of something, you are affecting...
Trees are too big to have application to quantum mechanics.
Yeah, you're either deliberately misunderstanding me, or...
No, I'm not, because
you don't know the difference between sound and sound waves, then?
Wait.
This already is a very good example. This is what science does in society. Because, as you explain, the Orbiter first you need to have the theory and all the definitions laid out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we are disagreeing in principle. Yeah. I think we're just talking about it in different terms.
Yeah, it gets down to semantics, but then like people hear that and think, well, scientists don't have a bloody clue what's going on, so let's just make up our own minds. I think.
But quite often people will dismiss semantics as irrelevant when actually in science they're extremely important, because you have to be able to specifically define different phenomena and differentiate them from each other, such as sound waves that occur but aren't perceived being... Yes,
and also a very... Sorry. No, I should not interrupt. You continue.
No, it's all right. I just punched the mic.
Oh, okay. No, it is the one that always sticks with me is mass and weight are two different things.
Yes. Yeah.
They are used interchangeably by everybody. Even ourselves do that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. But if you go to the scientific correctness, there is a huge difference between those two.
Yeah. It depends on what arena you're kind of conversing in, doesn't it? If you're speaking in scientific terms, then
I suppose that's where the sort of an understanding of what sort of audience you're speaking to does need to be understood by the people speaking to that audience, so that they explain it in terms that that audience can understand and not get the wrong idea of what they're actually trying to say.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So I hope I was clear and I didn't mislead anyone that obviously a tree still does create sound waves.
Yeah, I just because, but. Also, in the semantics of that question, nobody to perceive it. Does nobody include non-human animals?
Yeah, because they have auditory canals as well. So, So
there are things to react to that sound.
So if you bring that back, then this is to what you started off with, Firebolt, is the, what did you call them, the scientific non-believers or what? The
Science deniers.
Science
It's generally
deni-
referred to as science denialism. And the
Yes,
way I look
but-
at it is, I believe a healthy skepticism of everything is necessary. But when it gets to the point where you are willing to completely ignore evidence, I mean, science is predicated on basically trying to disprove your own hypotheses.
Yes. So, but where the flat Earth comes from is that I think that was first coined by the church, but they didn't
Right.
have the evidence or their semantics. There was not enough research done, or not much was known. So
Yeah. But then,
And-
I mean, I think, I can't remember who was the first person to do the experiment with the two poles, looking at shadows, that they were going at different degrees from city to city.
That's mentioned in
measure curvature,
the
yeah.
Cosmos series, Carl Sagan. I can't remember the name either, but it was quite a famous. But right,
Yeah, but I think there is a human factor to it as well. Is if you've been told things, in this example by the church, and you've always believed that as the truth and the one only
Yeah.
truth, then every other evidence that clearly
I think,
disproves it is that I think
Yeah.
there is a human resistance of seeing that side.
yeah, seeing an argument that contradicts your own viewpoint, I think that's called cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
sorry, excuse me.
I think there's two places that this does stem from. The first being religion, as we've discussed, because in the Bible, I think it does state pretty clearly that the viewpoint of the Bible is that the earth is flat. Because at the time, the people that wrote the Bible that weren't really getting the word of God, in my opinion and in my knowledge,
I don't know the Bible like really, really well, but having had a religious upbringing, I have to say I can't recall ever reading anywhere in it that it says the world is flat.
yeah, but
I don't.
have you actually read it all the way through?
I'm pretty sure I probably read it all at some point.
I'll look it up, because it might just be that it suggests that the world is flat. And so
But I mean, this is one of the things I was going to bring up, is that right back at the sort of times that you were talking about with the guy and the shadows and stuff like that, the church and the scientists were a lot more working together, because science was seen as a way to explore the creative forces behind the universe. Do you know what I mean? A way to get to know God better, if you like. God was less defiled by human ideas, I think, back then. It was.
Isn't going to be much use.
I don't know that. But I think that one thing that I found quite interesting is that the more you get into discussing science, the easier it is to slip into philosophy.
Okay, here's
yeah.
the first verse that I found. Chronicles 16:30. Tremble before him, all the earth. The world is firmly established; it cannot be moved. Establishing the idea that the earth doesn't rotate, which means that the earth does have to be flat by that assumption.
I didn't really read into that. The trouble with it is, though, these are all translations as well, aren't they?
Yeah, but the idea is basically, I think, one of the things that this movement stems from is that the model that has been proved time and time again, that the earth is round, as well as pictures proving that, doesn't conform with what the Bible is telling them.
Right.
That the earth does rotate, it can be moved. and that our solar system is heliocentric, which means the sun in the middle.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that's one of the places that it stems from. The other is a distrust of authorities, which is mainly from politicians, I think, because people don't trust politicians and they assume that scientists, being a body of authority, must also be lying to them.
I think it's easy.
So where
when you have a particular mindset, I think it's easy to choose to read what you want to read into.
Yeah, but the Bible does say that. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you don't have to interpret it as meaning. If you say the world cannot be moved, that doesn't mean that it's not moving of its own accord. It just means that you can't actually move it because it's fucking big. To me, it's like.
Well,
yes. Yeah, and I don't know. This is what you were touching on, Firebolt. Is that distrusting authority is so. Yeah. So is that the fact that people take such a hard line and not want to listen to evidence for anti-vaxxers, for that vaccines.
Oh,
I think particularly with that, there's that sort of fear of, oh, what are they injecting me with? Is it the government trying to control my mind? That sort of thing. And, they sound crazy at that point, but the government does a lot of fucked up shit. So, what could be next? That's the sort of idea.
Oh, yeah. So let me throw another one in the mix then. Chemtrails.
I had...
How come you're not affected by them?
I know somebody who told me about those and believes in them. Basically.
Okay, so for the listeners who don't know what chemtrails are, is there are people that believe that the trace, or what do you call it, the traces in the sky from aeroplanes are government controlled spread of chemicals.
Designed to I think
control the people.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful.
And it sounds funny listening to that, but there's a growing number of people actually believing this, and especially with the vaccines thing, it does really hurt people. 40 people died last year due to a measles outbreak, which was thought to be pretty much eradicated.
Well, that's it. And if you're in one of the unfortunate people who can't actually have the vaccine, like Mum is...
some people have allergies to it, so it's herd immunity that we need.
She actually had some hearing damage from her first rubella vaccination. So
those non-believers and the anti-vaxxers, from with their own selfishness, they put other people at risk.
Well, that's it, because if she comes into contact with somebody who has measles or rubella, then she could lose her hearing.
And I believe those viruses can become dormant in humans.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the vaccine, it can just sort of be... You might not necessarily have the outbreak and the symptoms might not show yet, so you're not really looking out for keeping away from people. But this is a problem, I think, is if we bring it back to the subject, is no matter what amount of science you throw at it, it is because of how human beings are, you always have... They double down.
Yes.
They go, oh, well, that must be wrong because whatever fake reason they come up with. Specifically looking at Flat Earth, in that documentary I talked about, Behind the Curve, they did experiments with a gyroscope to see how much it shifted as the day went on. And they found that it was concordant with the results that most scientists were getting, roughly. About 15 degrees per hour of rotation.
Yes, so more and more evidence, but still people...
Yeah, they denied it and put off what actually happened in the experiment to heavenly energies. So that it's very clear in this worldview that it is very linked to religion. It's almost always, oh, well, you got the earth, and then, like, the sky is just painted on, basically, by God.
I think the problem is religion has become something which is like you say, opposite to science. I mean, it's technically the opposite kind of philosophy. You know, it's built on faith, whereas science is built on doubt. So, but that wasn't always the case. Yeah, but I mean, it's like they're almost like.
Sometimes you do get certain instances where people are inspired to do science to understand God's creation, something like that.
Well, that's how it used to be.
But that's not what the church really
no, but the church
advocates.
The church is, yeah.
Or at least used to advocate. It doesn't tend to really get involved so much anymore.
But then the funny thing as well is this science did an awful lot of good for the church as well as this, for example, when they discovered, what do you call it, the cloth that Jesus apparently was buried in.
Right.
If it wasn't for, sorry?
Shroud of Turin.
Yes, those ones, yes. I only know the Dutch word, but never mind this. If it was for sciences, they've done lots and lots of experiments on it. And even now with every new technological discovery is they come back to those tests.
You cut out there.
We just lost your audio for a second, sorry.
Or maybe because I was waving my hands and I touched the wire of my microphone. And also, this is probably because of science. One day they might find Noah's Ark.
Right. Yeah.
The thing with that is that you have the same myths across different actual religions. So it strikes me that why do so many people reach a different conclusion about who their God is and what that God believes if there is a God? A true God.
Can I attempt to steer us back to science?
Okay.
we've been through politics and religion so far.
It's very closely linked, though.
Yeah.
No, okay, yes, yeah, okay. Go on. Where are you going with us?
I hadn't thought any further than that. I was just thinking this is heading down the religion path again. But have you seen the film Weird Science?
No.
Oh, flipping heck!
You obviously have then.
Was that not if I remember correctly, is this two schoolboys do a sort of a Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Right.
Yes.
They bring Kelly LeBrock to life, don't they?
Yes.
No
they created their ideal woman. Sort of. Yes.
Yeah, it's very. Actually, that's one of the first films I ever saw Robert Downey Jr. in.
Man, know what is this? Yeah, I've seen that. Sorry, yes.
He played. I can't remember the name of the characters, but he was one of the sort of anti-heroes in that film. Can't remember the name, but
what was that film? When was that film released? Mid-80s?
That must have been, yeah.
I think it's in the same era as Ferry Bueller's Day Off, I think.
Yeah, another classic film. Anyway, so maybe the morality of science.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So just because you can do something, should you?
That is...
I know...
you know what? I used that exact quote in a presentation that I gave at work. Is because Dr. Ian Malcolm uses that quote in which movie? Come on, Paul.
Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Yes. Your scientists were too occupied with figuring out if they could, and they forgot to ask the question if they should.
Yeah.
I think the thing with that is when profits get mixed up in science.
Oh, yes.
Profits spelled FIT, not PH. Yeah. Okay.
I'm particularly talking about like the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
Yes.
With how much do they overcharge for new treatments, and that could be revolutionary if It was just actually released properly, and the big companies didn't get involved. There's sort of wanting to drive profits didn't get involved.
I think the difficulty for me is, and I think the perfect example of it is the splitting the atom. I think the difficulty for me is that pure science, has no interest in what the potential uses are going to be of something, because you can't tell what the uses might be when you're developing a principle. Do you know what I mean?
And history has proven that over and over again. Is a lot of inventors are ashamed of what they actually created.
Yeah,
seeing what people did with it.
Alfred Nobel, named for the Nobel. He named the Nobel Prize, but specifically because he felt so guilty about creating dynamite.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he thought he did something good, just because that helped the miners.
Yeah, but in reality, that just started fueling wars.
Yes,
because people were using it in artillery.
But you can't. When you develop a technology, you can't prohibit people from using it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why you have ethics boards now in science.
Yeah.
I will admit, in the past, that's not really been enough in the centre, because, especially with psychology, they're allowed to get away with doing all sorts of stuff to, especially prisoners. I remember a particular experiment about abuse of power, and they got 12 volunteers, I think, and 6 of them were to be prisoners, and 6 of them were to be prison guards.
Yeah.
People willingly went into this experiment, but as the experiment went on, the prison guards just really started abusing their power, and the experiment had to be called off because things were getting really bad in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think if something can be weaponized, somebody will.
Yes, and then again, but because of that, should we not doing scientific research anymore? This is because a very close to home example for me is the laser. When that was invented, fuck knows people knew what to do with it. It's about for purposes, and if you see now, it's okay, you can do massive damage and harm to it. But the optical devices our company makes, they've got lasers in it, and that is to detect diseases in people's eyes. So thank God for the invention of the laser.
Yeah.
Good example, the Orbiter last year got laser eye surgery.
Lens replacement, so...
In another way, this is a good example of where it is doing good. And if it wasn't for the laser, we wouldn't have the wonderful compact disc.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Although vinyl enthusiasts might say that would be a good thing.
Oh yes, no, that's a discussion for another day. Just because it is a Dutch invention, I wanted to throw it in there.
What, the laser?
The compact disc.
Oh right, okay.
I know a very good party trick with that. The CD was invented by Philips, probably as well with Sony, but the professors and the researchers in the lab needed to say, okay, the CD needs a hole in it.
Yeah.
And then they questioned, how big does the hole need to be? And people said, it's needed be as big as a 10 pence piece, a Dutch 10 pence piece. That would do, right?
Yeah. So
somebody took his wallet, got out a 10 pence piece, a Dutch one, Dutch 10 pence, measured it, and that's it. And I've still got a 10 pence piece, guilder one. And it fits perfectly in the CD hole.
Oh, right.
That's a bit of trivia there.
I did not know that.
Yep. Next time when I see you, I will pull that party trick.
But
good. Carry on.
In terms of ethics within science, I think
Yes.
this is why we now have institutions to safeguard from this. So the UN will, if Syria is using chemical weapons, which they did, go to make sure that they cease all production of chemical weapons.
Right.
We have these institutions to ensure that that doesn't happen now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And whilst they might not always be successful because people are determined to be dickheads to one another.
Have you ever heard the phrase that war is the mother of invention?
I have.
Sorry, can you repeat that again, Dad?
War is the mother of invention.
Yes, yeah, and I very much agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes, and for how hard it is, but yes.
It's, I mean, you know, a good example of it is the internet, basically. You know, that would quite possibly have never come about without the need for an independent sort of network of communication that didn't rely on a central kind of location.
But hopefully we're now entering an era of, because things are getting a lot more globalistic now, where cooperation can drive that. Or perhaps fear of a threat that isn't human, like climate change, for example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if we need a sort of threat to push us in a direction, then that might be something useful, I guess.
Oh.
No, that was me. I messing around. Sorry.
All right. I just thought you were sending us an image.
Yeah, I tried to resist, but I took a snapshot of the Skype screen, which is boring. Sorry, sorry for the interruption.
That's quite all right. Oh. Hey. Oh. Sorry. I seem to have...
Okay, that is the image that I wanted to send. Sorry, that was still a part of the trick, but hey-ho. Anyway.
I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Carry on.
Okay, so we were talking about ethics in science.
Yeah.
What do you think about cloning? Human cloning specifically.
It's not perfect, but are you talking about the concept of possibly pure successful cloning, or
Yeah.
I think if you bring it back, is in the sense is I think it is good that we explore the idea that you could, and then hopefully that there are benefits coming out from that as spin-offs and that sort of stuff. But
I think, but
if you ask the question if you should, I would say no.
I think there are obvious benefits, like cloning human organs for a start.
Yes.
I would say that it should be limited to tissues rather than like actual conscious.
Yes.
But when you say
info.
It should be, if the technology is the same, that somebody can clone an entire person using the same technology, then whether or not we put rules in place to prevent it happening, the chances are somebody will do it.
Yes. Yeah, but the question that I put out there is but because of that is should we not do it? Is because back to the laser example, is a lot of good can come out of it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it throws up all sorts of problems, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes.
Certainly. I mean, the first thing that sprang to my mind was forensics. You know, at crime scenes, if somebody's DNA is found to be on a crime scene,
Yes.
it can easily have been cloned.
Yep. Yes.
Right, but like you can already do that. If you've managed to get someone's DNA, you can just put it at a crime scene. You can already do that.
But I suppose in the world of forensics, the actual act of somebody depositing DNA in a way that fits a performed crime is obviously that's doable if you can clone a whole person instead of just their DNA.
Yeah.
Right, but
so you in other words, I could clone you, and then I could get that clone to perform a crime, and basically to frame you for it.
The idea is maybe that,
No,
say you were a company that designed cloning machines, you couldn't sell that with any option to create maybe the tissue that's needed for synapses, so for consciousness.
Yeah.
I've seen Dolly the sheep, by the way.
Oh, you've seen them?
I've seen Dolly the sheep, yes, as a stuffed animal in the Scottish National Museum.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Where is that?
That's in Edinburgh.
Have we not seen it? I think
It's in the,
Perhaps, yeah.
because we went into the Scottish National Museum when we were in Edinburgh a few years ago. I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
It's good museum that actually.
Oh,
I
yes,
thought you meant like alive.
No, not alive. There is a big disclaimer. But I know how to phrase things to get somebody's attention.
He's got an inflatable version.
As a musical prop, yes.
Yeah. Keeps it next to his wellies by the door.
Yeah. Anyway, but okay. Not to steer away from the discussion we were having if we talk about sciences, is just look at the Scottish National Museum.
Yeah.
And a small nation as what Scotland is what they've achieved you can be proud of that.
Definitely.
I mean, they never really stopped lecturing me at school about how great Scottish scientists are, but it is quite incredible that for a nation of 5 million people, there are so many prolific Scottish inventors and scientists about.
It's the porridge.
Yes.
It's the porridge.
Yeah.
I would have said
Porridge.
it is in the air. Yep.
Can I possibly steer onto a slightly I suppose it is science fiction, but science fiction quite often drives real science. You know, I mean, we've got the kind of communicators they had in Star Trek back in the 60s and 70s. Now,
Well, we kind of have that with flip phones.
Do you mean in the same manner as war is the mother of invention? That science fiction drives.
yeah, I think because, I mean, you know, there'll have been a lot of people who, as kids, will have seen a lot of the technology that was in science fiction or read about it,
I suppose
and wanted it to become
I suppose it's
real.
Like not having any limits on the imagination of, oh, well, this isn't possible because this thing, we don't know how to do that, and we probably won't ever know how to do it. It's just sort of being so out there. It's like, well, in the future, we might well do.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to sort of get onto was a bit of a mind bender. Was sorry, Pate, have you watched much Star Trek? Do you watch Star Trek at all?
No, sorry.
Right, okay. But you know about the technology of transporters, and do you know about that?
Yes.
Yeah, and they also have replicators that are built on the same technology. Basically, it's transferring energy back and forth between matter and energy, isn't it?
Ooh, interesting thing. Have you heard of CGP Grey, Pate?
Yes.
He did a video on transporters, and it poses the question of, are transporters suicide booths?
Yeah, that. Well, because I mean, that's if you ever get a chance to see The Fly, that's a good film.
That's Jeff Goldblum as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was an original one before that, but that's the one I've seen. But anyway, what I was going to say was that technology is what the replicators use, which are basically like they use them for food vending machines, don't they? Basically on the Star Trek on the ships. But if you can replicate something, if you like 3D print something out of an energy pattern, you have a stored energy pattern that can materialize anything that you want it to. How would that fit with the laws of science in terms of, say you had a replicator but you had a pattern for it to replicate a replicator?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have to have enough. You would have to be able to sort of You just basically need to be able to rearrange the atoms of the energy. Well, not of the energy, but like of the air around you and what materials are there. I suppose you'd have to have stuff of different elements and be able to basically construct atoms to like make enough.
So basically,
protons
you'd need enough energy then, basically.
Yeah, you'd need an awful lot of energy to.
So can energy and matter
You'd be basically doing nuclear fusion, but beyond iron, which is like the heaviest thing that I think can be fused, like at least within something called stellar nuclear synthesis, which is what
Jesus, I wish I hadn't asked now.
stars undergo. Basically, nuclear fusion in stars. So it starts off with hydrogen, and then that fuses into helium because it's so hot and dense. You would basically need to be able to do fusion at high levels, so you get the atoms are in whatever you're wanting to produce.
Jesus Christ. He's looking at me like I would imagine Brian Cox does at Robin Ince.
Yes.
He's looking at me with just like this enthusiasm in his face, and I've got no idea what you're talking about.
I love it when someone actually like indulges me on something like that.
But that poses an interesting question. Okay, we know for a fact that at this moment in time it is not possible, but with what we know at the moment, do you think that it would be possible at some point?
Oh, absolutely. They've already done, I think, low-level transportation, teleportation, I mean. But not of anything big enough as a human sort of.
Yeah.
Of, I think it uses quantum physics and quantum entanglement, because that's basically like virtual particles suddenly appearing, and then you got like an anti-particle as well, so they annihilate like all the time. So you've got
so step away from the technicalities. Then is it and get a bit philosophical. Where will this lead us to? Where will it end? Not necessarily that specific technique of transportation but
it does get very philosophical, doesn't it? Because
I think it's impossible to know for certain what the limits of humans are.
Oh, yes.
And we begin to approach the point where you think, I mean, like, I'm specifically thinking about whether or not you can convert yourself into energy form. And that kind of then brings up the subject of what actually am I? What is the ego? What is the? Is it the id? Is that what we're talking about? Like,
right?
You can maybe
for those unaware, that's a thing to do with Sigmund Freud and the self.
Yeah, because I mean, like what makes me up as energy and matter? None of that was in existence in the form it is now. Say 10 years ago, I'm completely different in form.
Yeah. But I think it's estimated that like,
so what is that person?
All your atoms are basically changed round 6 months later. So this comes to the philosophical question of something called the ship of Theseus.
Yeah, you mentioned this before.
Yes.
Where basically, if you had a ship, I think this might have been posed by Aristotle or Socrates. If you had a ship and over time, because various parts got worn out, you replaced them to the point where, like, 10 years or so later, it's still got the same name, the ship, but none of the original parts are there. Is that still the same ship?
And I suppose that's the essence of it, is that the name of the ship is its identity, isn't it? Which is the same as what we think of as ourselves. You know,
but the thing on the other side of the teleporter or transporter would call itself you. It would have all your memories, and aren't all your memories and all your experiences, and the fact that you think you are you make you you. You think, therefore you are. You think you are who you are, therefore you are, because you know who you are.
So what then happens? What then happens if you can make a duplicate copy that also thinks it's you?
And
this comes up in Star Trek.
Are you back to cloning again?
Well, sometimes
in a different way.
Because it is, although in some of the newer series it's not really marketed that much, as it's very much made clear that transporters can be quite dangerous.
Yeah, there is an
And
accident
several
in one of them
times.
where somebody gets duplicated.
I think that's Riker,
Yeah.
the second in command.
Yeah.
This whole bit goes way beyond me, by the way. But
Yeah.
Well, they've transported down to a planet, basically, and in the process of transporting back, the signal both gets through, but also bounces back through I suppose, like through the weather systems that are on the planet. The signal bounces back as well, so he does make it back to the ship, but he also doesn't.
So almost,
So there are two copies of him at that point.
yeah. Is that, I haven't actually seen this episode. Is that there's one copy of him on the surface of the planet and one copy on the ship?
One of them gets marooned and one of them makes it back to the ship. And then, of course, that marooned version
I believe
turns up
there's
years later
also an
all
episode
bitter.
where that same character turns into a caveman because of a transporter accident. Or something along those lines.
Oh, there's all sorts of weird shit goes on.
I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe that's the marooned one, like, goes feral or something.
Time travel.
so how
Not possible.
did we get into a
You say that, but
how did we get into an early Star Trek conversation?
Because science fiction, and that's like the most notable example of science fiction inspiring new technologies.
right, I'm
Because
gonna
we don't have lightsabers
I'm gonna have
yet.
to look something up because
Although probably someone at NASA's working on lightsabers because NASA people are nerds. I know that they're working on a warp core, and I did want to research this in detail. There's something proposed called an Alcubierre drive, which is basically like a warp drive. Are you aware of warp travel, Pete? Pate?
I've heard of the terminology, and if you explain what it is, I say, oh yes, that. So please
Basically
explain.
traveling faster than the speed of light,
Oh,
which
yes.
is thought to be
Okay.
impossible.
Is that the Millennium Falcon?
Star Wars does something different where they have like hyperspace tunnels that they go through, so basically sort of exiting physical reality to do that, or bending space-time to do that.
Ah, okay, yes, yep.
I think the idea is that an Alcubierre drive or warp drive would use exotic matter. So things like negative weight, which they've managed to create effective negative weight using, I think, something called a Bose-Einstein condensate, which is basically really close to absolute zero. And I think it was some rubidium that they managed to cool to that, to almost absolute zero with lasers.
Okay, good. So yeah, okay, yeah. With things like Star Trek and Star Wars, I always more want to see them as entertainment and not going into much detail as is what is there from a technological perspective, what's happening there.
well,
Because scientists are generally nerds, that it does help to sort of actually bring those things into reality.
returning to reality then. I know I said time travel,
Oh no,
but
I wanted to wedge one more thing in this is about science fiction. Is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
oh, brilliant, yeah.
Because when Theo, you were talking about they use another mechanism for space travel or traveling at very fast speed. I don't know what it was called in the
The
Hitchhiker's
Heart of
Guide.
Gold, I think, or that might be the ship. They have something called the improbability
Hypervolt,
drive.
That is the thing. There was another piece of technology. Yes.
Basically, because Douglas Adams is quite comedic in his writing, he wanted to create something that is basically throws up something really improbable.
Yeah.
So,
But to make a segue, and that is why I wanted to wedge in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a piece of technology like the babblefish.
yes, yeah.
I think that we are not far off of having something like that in real life.
Yeah, yeah. Because you can get like an earpiece, can't you, that you can put in that basically uses Google Translate. I heard this on excuse me, on one of these technology. I can't remember if it was on Radio 4 or it was.
It's not perfect, but it can really help with like international businesses.
I mean,
to talk.
AI and machine learning is kind of getting us closer, a lot closer to that sort of. Being a possibility.
Because with China becoming more and more prominent as an economic power, quite a lot of the clients that people will be speaking to will probably speak Mandarin or another Chinese language. So having the ability to do that without a human translator, it might not be perfect, but it allows real-time translation.
But now you name a country where I think technology ethically is gone wrong.
Definitely. Yeah. Especially, we can talk about this in the UK as well, because I believe privacy's been overlooked for the sake of convenience in a lot of the Western world, but specifically in China with their social credit system, facial recognition's being used for everything. So, for example, I think I was watching... Have you heard of a show called Frankie Boyle's New World Order?
I know Frankie Boyle.
He has a show where he talks about politics and the likes, and I think it was on his show. He had a guest on that said that they had been to China, or they had a friend that went to China, and so they were with some Chinese friends of theirs.
I'm leaving.
And they use facial... He's going to get another beer. They use facial recognition for toilet paper. So...
That's weird. Now, I've seen a clip on Chinese airports where you walk up to a terminal, not a terminal as a gate to get onto your places, but a kiosk. They scan your face and they get up your flight details. I find that scary.
Okay, I am back.
It was talking about you go to a kiosk with facial recognition and it brings up your flight details for you.
On the Chinese airport.
Yeah.
Okay, I have my fancy beer that we were talking about at the start, or lager. It's Italian, actually. Menebria.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice one. That is the sort of beer I would drink on a hot summer's day.
Cool. I'm not really much of a connoisseur of this sort of thing.
Me neither. I know what I like and I know what I don't like.
Okay. I mean, the whole thing about the facial recognition thing, it's not necessarily gonna be just about facial recognition. I don't know if you've seen Total Recall, is it?
Yeah.
Not seen that.
Basically, excuse me, and the remake certainly. Anyway, I think there's quite a few films actually that do this sort of thing where you can be walking along and the advertising panels that as you walk past them show you tailored adverts that are specific to you.
Yeah,
in the same way you get when you're online.
Apps nowadays.
Yeah. So what's new? Yeah, what's different?
But I mean, that wouldn't.
It's okay. So when
people can track, they can track your phones already. So all it would take would be like a chip implanted in your hand or whatever.
So was that the original Total Recall already? That they had that?
I'm not sure. I've seen a couple of films that have got that sort of technology in them. But what freaked me out today was that I was doing my accounts and I was working out mileage allowances for different trips that I've done for business. And I use the AA route planner to look up postcodes so that I can then calculate the distance. And when I'm searching for a venue that I've played at, I'll look it up on Google. And I looked up this venue, and it said you last visited this place on such and such a date.
Oh dear!
And then when I looked further into it, it also gave me 3 more dates going back over the last 3 years when I'd been to the same place.
So they keep that information. Wow.
Yeah, and this was on a Google search. They told me the dates that I had visited that hotel in the last 3 years. And I don't know if it was because they've tracked where my phone is or if they've seen stuff on my Google Calendar. But when I get in the car, I'll hook my phone into the car Android Auto system, and it'll immediately suggest a sat nav location for me to drive to based on what's in my calendar.
I always find it interesting how these algorithms are able to guess things about you that you don't even tell the system just through what you're doing in your day-to-day life, like your age, where you live. Like something that just happened with Google Maps on my phone, because I was regularly going to my school at the same time on set days. It managed to figure out without me telling it that was sort of my place of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I get in the car on a Saturday, around about lunchtime, it offers to sat nav me to the same place that I drive to most Saturday afternoons. Which is, I mean, an extension of that same technology. I think is where, and I think it's been outlawed now that insurance companies aren't actually allowed to charge a premium for things like cancer and what have you anymore. I think they still do.
But
they're not legally allowed to.
Fun thing about how insurance companies decide like how much risk how much of a risk you are, basically. If you have a Hotmail email address, you're likely to get a higher premium, because it's presumed, first of all, that people that have Hotmail email addresses are older, but also that they're, if they are younger, that they're more carefree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And statistically, that's probably true.
Yeah, because their algorithms figured this out.
Are we moving away from the science subject, or is this science in practice?
I suppose it's data science, isn't it, really?
Yes.
Yes.
And we've seen the effects of that drastically over the last 2 or 3 years with that whole Cambridge Analytica thing.
Oh yeah, like with democracy and pandering adverts to people to change their opinions when they're not even aware of it.
Do you follow or have you heard of the YouTube channel or the guy Destin from Smarter Every Day?
Yes.
He's going to do a YouTube series on exactly that kind of stuff. And he's put the first one out is how they try to beat the Google for the YouTube algorithms with tweaking the way the videos are put together and that sort of stuff for the purposes of influencing people.
Yeah.
Right. I did notice the UK has some quite unusual laws to do with how we're allowed to like politically advertise. Like, I don't think you're allowed any more political broadcasts on TV.
No.
And TV news channels are specifically prohibited from having biases, although the papers have kind of taken advantage of that.
That is not unusual, because in the Netherlands you've got exactly the same.
I think you have that over a lot of Europe, though. It seems in America that's something quite like with Fox News and CNN, they're quite biased as well.
Yeah, but there's a difficult
situation getting away from
that
France, but
yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay, can I... Because I feel like we sort of glossed over this because you didn't want to talk about religion. Getting back to science denialism.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just... A lot of the sort of misconceptions are what fuels these new movements that can become quite dangerous. Just not understanding the actual science and the scientific process, how that works. Because, I mean, there's an excellent I'm not sure if you'd call it a song, by Tim Minchin, called Storm. It's
I find that funny. I'm not sure if you can call it a song.
well, it's
Tim Minchin. I know.
it's a beat poem. It's 9 minutes long, and it's about evening with someone who's like, oh, life's so mysterious and science can't explain everything, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if this was an evening that actually happened, but it's just sort of him explaining quite eloquently how the actual scientific process works. So the sort of point that he creates from this person called Storm is that science is just as dogmatic as any faith.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he sort of goes, "Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. Except that's actually bullshit." I think I'm going to try and get the phrasing of this. Faith is the ignorance of evidence, so belief can be preserved. Science changes its belief based on the evidence that is presented. He presents it a lot more eloquently and probably in different words, but
see, I don't have a problem with the concept of faith. I just think it's misapplied. To me, faith is about. To me, the most useful form of faith is believing in yourself and believing in what you can achieve. But again, that's kind of evidence based anyway, because it's based on your experience as a person.
But
there's
kind
no
of
point
the
in
evidence
believing that
that
you can fly.
Well, if you believe in yourself more, then you're more likely to be successful. That's the idea. If you have a higher self-esteem, so you can sort of kind of trick your own brain into making you a better person.
But then again, it's still going to be tempered by evidence, isn't it? Because you can't, if you believe something that's actually physically impossible about yourself, you're just going to end up.
You could be putting yourself in danger.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah. No, what you just talked about is that sounds all a bit philosophical again, but if you bring that back to science again.
He gets very philosophical.
I heard, what's going on in your brain but also that there again is something 100 years ago we hadn't got a clue. And now we know more about those kind of things, what's actually happening with all those neurons, that gives us a better understanding of why. Yeah, I suppose is why people are the way they are.
But in terms of science denial, I kind of put it in the same category as religion, in that I think it's a form of mental illness to me.
Wow,
right.
That
but I think
that's a very bold statement. This is, but there is. I think that
one that I've suffered from.
I think
one that I have suffered from.
I think applying that terminology though just makes people don't want to hear that their beliefs are basically insane. Especially the sort of lights of conspiracy theorists.
You don't have to be insane to be mentally ill. I mean, insane is a definition kind of defined.
Yeah, but it has those
society.
Connotations.
Yeah.
Are we going back to definitions?
Yeah, I think so.
No. Okay, no, but yes. Okay, yes. I see what you're saying is, Theo, is if you've been told, you non-vaxxer, you're not well up in the head. You're just mentally ill because of what you say and what you believe.
I mean, I would say that it's essentially true, but I don't think it's useful in discussion.
No.
It doesn't change any minds.
No, I think that polarizes even more.
Yeah.
And then we end up underestimating the people that aren't willing to accept the truth, and often not willing to accept the truth has caused many of the problems we see in the world today.
Yes. Yeah.
The trouble is as well that with the way that information is shared nowadays, you can basically find justification for just about any viewpoint somewhere, and you can even claim that it's scientific. I've seen some of the anti-vax kind of
Yeah.
people trying to put forth sort of scientific evidence for different things that are in.
But usually you have to look at where the research is coming from.
Yeah.
So you have to go to see that background of whoever actually came up with that paper. And I think usually it stems from one paper that's been debunked loads of times, and even the publisher themselves has admitted that their methods were faulty, but once it's already out there, people are willing to draw whatever conclusions they want.
The other thing as well is that whenever you start down in a particular direction of sort of assessing anything, it's once you're off the fence and on one particular side of a debate, it's so easy to get confirmation bias.
Oh yeah,
that you just end up, further down that road.
And there's quite a lot of false positives in science as well, where your experimentation can be flawed, but it's not the rebuttal that gets published.
Well, the media, I think, are to blame with a lot of it. Because...
I think, the media have an unhealthy relationship with science, just sort of immediately going, oh, this new thing that will improve your sex life or make you thin. Oh, well, let's just publish that without even thinking about, hang on, was this experiment actually done under fair conditions? Was it accurate?
See, to me, there seems to be an obsession with what is labelled supernatural. I mean, you see the horoscopes in the media and all these stories of ghosts being experienced and stuff. And it's like, but to me, if something exists, then it is natural. Well, we might not know about it, we might not understand it, but it's natural because it exists.
I'm out for a few minutes.
Okay.
I think Alvin Bryan's lost its train of thought. Okay, the other thing that I was going to say, like back to that 10-minute beat poem by Tim Minchin, is that the answer to every mystery that science has ever tried to solve has never been magic.
No. There's no such thing as magic.
No, because it's always... there's always an explanation.
But
it may be perceived as magic. Quantum physics might be, wow, that's really weird, but... we try and understand it.
What is beyond
your
beyond your knowledge is always perceived as, well, it's not always perceived as magic, but it's so easy for people to want to think of it like that because, I don't know, they want to believe in magic. I don't know why. It's like reality is so much better, because it's real.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what my train of thought was going to. Genuinely, I can't remember. But with that, I feel like my sort of general sort of philosophical viewpoint as well is that we should just be happy with reality. I mean, it can be desolate. Like, I watched a video recently on sort of speeding up time from now to see what the universe would look like, what the predictions are. And the space that life can actually live in is so brief.
Yeah.
Because the universe is going to be around for trillions of years.
Yeah.
But only for maybe like the first 10 trillion years, even like there's some very like towards the end of that window of life, the sort of beings that would be around would need so little energy to survive. But they'd have a thought maybe every trillion years.
But where we perceive our place in the universe from our place in the universe, and life is something which we see as the most precious thing there is. But it's like we can't even conceive of states of existence that may be possible outside of that time frame that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, where people, well, not people, but beings would have thoughts. So they need to not take up so much energy that they need to just have thoughts only every trillion years. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Because these would be the sort of beings that live off the energy of white dwarves or even black dwarves.
Right.
Are you aware what a black dwarf is? Not the...
Sorry. I've never seen a black dwarf, actually.
Black dwarf. Okay, good.
Have you not seen that sort of impersonation of Mr. T as a black dwarf?
No.
Okay.
Not sure if
You
I
have.
do want to see that.
You have, because in Tenerife, we went to a sort of fake jousting tournament.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. I have seen a black dwarf then. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
I mean, I have to admit, it was a little bit...
We were talking about... Tell Pate about these beings that you were telling me about. And
basically... Life as we know it can only exist in the universe for such a brief window. Because, I mean, black holes take a long time.
We're in the kind of Goldilocks zone of that.
Okay. Yes.
There has to be so much specific conditions so that we're lucky to be alive. But towards the end of that period where life is even possible, beings will require so little energy that they might have a thought every trillion years. Which seems like that length of time seems inconceivable to humans.
But
because 1,000 years feels inconceivable to most humans.
Yes. But I mean, you know, it might seem philosophical, but we're talking about stuff that, I mean, consciousness is a form that we've taken in the form that we're in now, but there's no reason to assume that consciousness can only exist in the form that we know it as.
But with that, I think it said that black dwarfs, which are basically stars that have completely reacted and just become completely desolate, they'd give off a very slight amount of energy, and that would be what these beings would live off.
Okay.
If you can call that living. Because they'd just be basically living on the remnants of the universe.
But you sort of... You wonder whether or not these kind of concepts are as alien to us as the concept of a human being to a microbe that lives in its gut.
It's thought that black dwarves would take so long to form that there aren't any in the universe right now. Because it would take at least 1 trillion years to form. But the universe has only been around for, I think it's 13.7 billion years is the rough figure for it. We should also talk about how scientists... we did briefly, I think, come to that during the if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? How scientists know things that happened in the past, even if you weren't there to necessarily see it or hear it or whatever. Especially the Big Bang. One of the main evidences for that is, I think it's called cosmic background microwave radiation. I might have gotten that the wrong way around. Basically, I mean, originally, there's kind of a funny story about this, how someone was using, I think, a radio telescope, and they always had this sort of background hum to things, if you can call it that. So they went to sort of check their instrument. They did actually find that there was birds nesting in there, which they thought might be causing the disturbance. They removed that and cleaned it out all properly, but there was still this background hum, which they concluded, and after more experimentation, that this has to be the radiation that's left after the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Because a cosmic event like that has to give off a lot of radiation because it's literally everything being spewed out.
Yeah, yeah.
All the energy that would ever exist. And also carbon dating. That's a lot of it comes back to radiation because basically certain elements you can measure their half-life. So if you can measure some things like original activity and then you can basically estimate how old something is based on its radioactivity.
Yeah. I've learned that at school.
Yeah, but God put those things there to test our faith.
That's just sort of... I feel like when you get to that point, I mean, there must be a certain point where those sorts of people wake up to... Because I think it's actually estimated that with cognitive dissonance, it takes roughly 2 years to get out of that original mindset. Which I've funnily observed in my own life, because I always think me from 2 years ago is a twat. More than I already think I'm a twat. So I'll always think me from 13-year-old me was just melodramatic and twatty.
Yeah, but you know that from that, you know that 17-year-old you's going to think you're a twat.
Yeah, but that's why I think I should always strive to sort of criticise myself. Although sometimes that goes a bit too far and I start getting annoyed at myself.
No, this is what
insight into my life.
No, what I find very interesting is what you just reflect on, or the bit of self-reflection you did is that very much can be applied to science as well as is. If you look at what people believed a couple of centuries ago, and with what we know now is what a bunch of twats were the people back in the day.
There's so much stuff that you would be wondering, how could anyone ever believe this?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, QI is always good for this, and particularly like the fish, like we talked about that. There was someone that pretended that they were from this Japanese island called Formosa.
Well,
they had previously tried to lie twice about 2 other identities. They tried to pretend that they were from Ireland, but that kind of backfired because Irish people could say, well, these claims are false. But basically they said that the reason that they were white and didn't look anything like any Japanese people was that all the upper class lived underground.
Yeah,
and that they slept like hanging upside down, and it's amazing that people actually believed that.
Yeah,
they actually believed this person was Formosa and got information about it. They constructed an entire language, and that person had to.
There are things I remember learning at school that I know now are bullshit. Like, I don't know if have you ever heard of phlogiston?
No.
What?
Phlogiston. Which I'm sure I was...
What sort of disease is that?
I can't even remember how you spell it. Hang on. Phlogiston. A substance supposed by 18th century chemists to exist in all combustible bodies and to be released in combustion. Yeah, I remember learning about that at school, but I didn't really pay much attention. Maybe they were telling us about the history of... But the Coriolis effect is one thing. There's loads of stuff out there that you can look up that's like most people, it's basically an urban myth, if you like. But the Coriolis effect is one of them. People think, that... the whole thing with the direction of rotation of water going down the plug hole.
Oh, right, yeah.
That only works, the Coriolis effect only works on massive scales, like with weather systems, basically. But the idea that water always goes down the plug hole in one direction,
based on the design of the sink
or the southern hemisphere. Well, and it also depends on how you pour the water in as well, because you get like a momentum going in a particular direction.
I kind of guess that
it does work with weather systems because they're so big, and the rotation of the Earth. That the top half of, say,
because that's
a
cyclonic
system. Yeah, but the top half of a cyclonic system is travelling slower than the bottom half in the northern hemisphere because of the curvature of the Earth. So it's naturally spins
Does that
in
come
the
from a
same
flat
direction.
earther?
Yeah, you would try bring up all sorts of things. I think it's when people get entrenched in their own ideas. People need to have more scientific minds where they're willing to challenge their own beliefs, like scientists do. Because that's the sort of idea, that's the entire principle of science. It's not like, oh, science believes this and this and this. It's just science is the method of testing ideas, basically.
Yeah, and you could
It's just scientific method. It doesn't come with any beliefs. It's just science reaches these conclusions based on the method of science.
Yeah,
and that is the only
it's not an
logical way to reach
invention.
the truth.
You could start again with a blank canvas, and you would still reach the same conclusions.
But it's weird. Like, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how accurate this is, but for example, in Civilization 5, the technology of scientific theory only comes about in the industrial area.
Right.
Because people just... I think one of the reasons also that IQ is increasing throughout the generations is that people are more able to picture abstract concepts. If you went to an 18th century, let's say, Russian fisherman, they wouldn't have a lot of the concepts that we have now. Because it just wasn't useful to life.
Yeah, yeah.
Or before Indian mathematicians figured the number 0 out, basically nobody ever had that idea.
Yeah, no, that was in the
It
Alex
came
Bellos
to
books.
I think it came through the Merchant of Pisa in like the 1400s or something.
And that was very frowned on by the church, the concept of 0 to start with, because that whole idea of a void, like a nothingness, and an abyss, was seen as a kind of a hellish kind of concept.
But it now seems that also negative numbers, that our society is so predicated on, like, how could anyone ever think anything else?
I mean, we're getting more onto maths than science, but I like the idea of
It's
imaginary
very
numbers.
connected.
Imaginary number.
Yeah.
I is my favorite. Well, or J. J is often overlooked, but I can't remember what J is.
But I'm not a mathematician.
Square
so
root of
they are useful
-1
for use in equations. But an imaginary number is like, for instance, the square root of -2.
That would be 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. It might be like whatever the square root of 2 is, I.
Anyway, I feel like we're probably not exhausting the realm of science, but I feel like I'm exhausting my brain power under the influence of Clockwork Tangerine.
But if there's anything that you should come away from this podcast with, is just to challenge your beliefs every day. Don't just flat out deny evidence because there's got to be some reason why your beliefs are...
Yes, but then again, is if you do that with everything and anything,
it can be exhausting.
then you would that's exactly the word what I wanted to mention to say is you will make it difficult and exhaustive. Exhausting for yourself.
So maybe the sort of idea is, because that's basically what scientists are there for, to do the questioning for you, because not everyone can every day do that. They can't go and dig up dinosaur bones to do the carbon testing for themselves. So we have paleontologists to do that.
Bring it very close to home is in your day-to-day things is most of the things that you do is you don't question and you take it for granted. Is that if you jump up, that you will come down. Nobody is doubting that. If you doubt those things, is so we've reached.
But astronauts do.
Yeah.
Oh.
Depending on where they are.
Yeah.
Quickly with that, because I feel like a lot of people misunderstand gravity. I mean, it sounds... To me, I always feel like I will over-explain something very simple. But a lot of people just don't understand how gravity actually works. So just to very quickly explain, it's the attraction of it's the attraction towards large masses, basically.
Yeah.
It's not everything's down, because in space and time, there's no real down as such. It's just there's an attraction towards big things, big accretions of masses.
Yeah, I mean,
And what? Yes, you go on.
you could, and I think of gravity as I like the idea of the gravity well, where you have a mass that basically is drawing things towards it, like stars and black holes and planets are basically gravity wells. I like that. And that description
space dust
makes sense.
The reason that things get this big is space dust kind of just comes around points that have already gained such mass.
Yeah, the coalescence, isn't it?
It's called accretion.
Right.
Yeah, but apart from what gravity actually is, but people don't doubt that kind of stuff.
People do, though.
Just take it for granted. But I only mentioned that as an example. But now that you've mentioned gravity, is a lot of people still believe is that the satellites and the International Space Station are staying where they are because of weightlessness, but they are actually in a constant pull from the Earth.
Yeah.
The idea is that they're always falling, but
Yeah.
they're going fast enough that they don't quite hit the ground.
Yes, yeah. But anyway,
the Earth does that around the sun as well.
But I don't want to steer away from what you were saying, Theo, is because what you're saying is very true. Is you need to have an inquisitive mind and challenge.
Be skeptical, but don't deny evidence to preserve your own beliefs.
There you go. That is a nice summary of.
And I would say that's true in everything, not just big questions like where does the universe come from. You should be applying that to how you think about your politics and how you think about your day-to-day life and how you interact with people.
You're dropping away a bit, but
because if people do that, then the world will be a better place, because people will be basing their lives on the truth, and I always think that will be better. This feels very sort of momentous, and I'm inspiring people to do good, but it's just live your life with truth in mind. And
I would encourage those of a religious bent to
examine your beliefs.
And to think about, question God, if you like. Challenge that concept and accept that if the God that you believe in is as wonderful as you believe them to be, they would welcome your queries, your questioning, your skepticism, because they designed you that way.
But
supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful where you get your information from as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, people can publish papers in the idea, because they'll be the benefactors of their experiments will want them to get results quickly, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're accurate. They will later maybe, like the person that proposed the idea of alpha males. That sort of idea. Complete bullshit. It sort of comes from wolves. That was just a mother caring for their young. They weren't a pack leader or anything. It's complete bullshit. Yet we use that to apply it to humans.
Yeah.
So you need to just be careful about what sort of things you get, what sort of information you get. So I wouldn't say just follow whatever the scientific consensus is, because sometimes what the public thinks the scientific consensus is isn't always right.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own research, but you're only human, I guess, so you can only do so much in terms of affirming the truth, really.
And here endeth the 33rd lesson of Breaking Bollocks.
Yeah, I feel like I'm
I just wanted to throw in one small thing, is because when we started the set, science is close to my heart. It is, but yet I've learned I learned a lot of other dimensions now from this conversation with you to
Really?
on the subject of yes, to look at it from different, yet more different angles is, but because science is close to my heart, is recently I've decided to become a STEM ambassador. That is to encourage science. That is
science, technology,
engineering
and mathematics.
So that is a program from the government.
Yes.
Yeah, it's used quite a lot in education, and
yes.
Ooh,
the thing is why
I want, because one of the sort of goals of this project is to get girls more into science.
Is this STEM you're talking about?
Yes, into STEM programs and STEM careers, because there is
for example,
a lot. There's imbalance there, and I feel like too often women and girls are sort of pushed away from science because there's kind of sort of atmosphere within that of explaining things to women and girls that they already understand because they already
mansplaining.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
That's basically it. And it's prevalent in science.
It is not necessarily aimed towards girls. It's okay. Yeah, girls are in the majority still. In the minority in those subjects. Yes, true. It is. But
I feel like it's a subconscious thing that quite a lot of men do. So just try to be aware of, like, again, coming back to like being aware of your audience. Like, if you're talking to a group of experts, then you don't need to go over all the minute details, I guess. No. You just need to make your point.
So what I'm doing is I yet have to do my first engagement but for example, that I can go into a primary school and talk about science in the workplace.
Oh, right,
and
okay.
I give and that sort of stuff. So yes, but still I'm a bit skeptical about that whole STEM program as well, because yes, the government recognized that there are not enough people in school or children in school picking up subjects like that. And that is what the workforce what the economy needs.
They must love me because I do all three sciences at the moment in school.
But immediately I thought and that must be close to your heart, Paul, and I think to yours as well, Theo, is why are they not doing the same with the artistic subjects?
Yeah.
Because science has proven, hey, see what I did there? Science has proven is that music and arts, any creative thing is so beneficial for the human being.
Well, I think if they took a slightly more holistic approach to it, in terms of one of the things that quite surprised me doing a lot of the sound production work that I was doing, is that actually it's all part of the same thing. You know, science is in everything. So that there's science in music and art.
Well, because everything's made of stuff, and science is basically the study of stuff. So.
But it engages different parts of the brain, and what I mean is with the arts and music and creativity
I definitely think creativity is often stifled in school. But
I mean, for instance, I find we're going to get started again, but I find it fascinating when I've read about, I've seen on documentaries about, I think it was Wonders of the Solar System. I remember seeing about the harmonic resonances in the rings around Saturn and things like that. You know, the way that these accretion disks are actually related to the kind of frequencies, the mathematical relations of the frequencies in different notes. And, you know, you get this kind of concept of the whole of the universe kind of vibrating in a kind of universal kind of symphony.
Interestingly, from that, sound apparently, I mean, you told me this, is the only thing that can escape from black holes.
That's true.
Because it resonates through matter, not as a matter as its own.
Although there is Hawking radiation as well, is there not?
Yeah, but we're getting into...
Maybe we should escape this black hole of a conversation.
Yeah,
that's a bit
But it just shows.
Did you really hate it that much?
Well, time is elongating as we speak.
Okay.
I feel like a stretched piece of spaghetti falling into an abyss.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, that's what happens when you fall into a black hole. You stretch, and you become.
Okay.
Have you seen the film The Black Hole?
Black holes are 2D as well. That's interesting.
2D?
Yeah.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're flat.
Oh, I thought if anything there would be one.
Which
2D
brings us back
projections.
to the beginning of the podcast. The Earth is flat.
Oh,
If you are going fast enough, it is. If you're a photon, it is.
what, the Earth?
Yeah.
And that is scientifically proven.
Oh, now we're going to get into dimensional theory.
Let's not.
But no,
Okay.
you wanted to put an end to this conversation.
I want to say the important things like how science is educated, I guess.
How science is educated.
No, like how science is taught and how we get more people into science, because there is a shortage of scientists at the moment, which I
Hence
guess
the STEM
means
program.
I'll find it easier to get a job because there's a high demand for scientists, but not enough people interested. Because I'm a rare case of someone that's very interested in science. I think I must be the only person in my year, and possibly the only person in school doing all three sciences at the moment.
Yeah, but you only managed to get them to do that by calling physics a technology subject, didn't you?
Well, the guidance teacher lobbied for me.
Yeah. They were only allowed to do 2 separate sciences, which I think is fucking ridiculous.
Well, you get in your
Yeah, I
third year
noticed,
choices.
yeah.
In your third year choices, you get science, and then you get an extra subject, but you also get a technology, which you can include physics in, because a lot of the physics that you actually learn about is about electronics, so you can sort of get away with that. But that means that I had to sacrifice doing engineering science, which I really want. And there's just so many subjects that I actually like. I kind of
Balance.
like doing. I like being taught stuff. I just don't like the school system and how it works sometimes.
I would say, going back to what you were saying, Pate, about the arts and that, I think it's about balance, isn't it?
Yeah, because
specialise, but you do need some.
Autistic.
Yes, and I think they
things.
try to achieve that with the curriculum. But yeah,
I kind of do.
But you see in practices the arts. The school system is struggling with that.
I kind of do music as my artistic thing within the school system, because that's something that I quite enjoy, and I think I'm relatively good at. That probably by practice, but it's hard to ascertain. I think also with that, just sort of good retention of music theory is always good.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I don't like how English is taught at school generally.
Are we ever?
But are we?
Because
I don't want to jinx your
sorry
your spreadsheet, or don't jinx us or put this array in your spreadsheet. But can school be one of your subjects?
We did education as our third episode, but we might come back to that.
Sorry.
We might come back to that in like
I don't remember that. That
was the one that you forgot to have the video for when we were still doing video.
Oh, that's not a problem anymore.
No.
I feel like
Did you just get rid of that so that you don't have to be embarrassed if you lose the video for some bizarre reason?
No.
I think you did. Anyway, I find that the part of English that I enjoy is writing creatively, but that's only like a small percentage of the course, and it's usually about appreciation and just actual literacy that's being taught.
We just started randomly waffling about anything now.
Okay, fine, we'll end the podcast soon, but like in terms of, I mean, this is just sort of, it feels like sometimes arts and science are meant to be opposed to one another, but they don't have to be. I feel like it's more religion should be opposed to that, but...
No, this is why I think sound production has brought the two together for me, because there is,
but there's so much mathematics, especially in music with like time signature as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's inescapable.
Music,
so is that something that you picked up later, sound production?
Me, yeah. Just quickly referring to what you said, music is sometimes known as liquid mathematics.
Cool.
But anyway, sound production really came about for me because of necessity, because a lot of what I did uses, amplification equipment and mixing and studio-based stuff, recording equipment and technology. So learning the principles of using that was almost as important as learning the principles of playing a musical instrument, because you are essentially playing technological instruments,
Yes. So, but that is more a personal question then, sorry if I ask that question, Paul, and you don't have to answer, but
what?
With your history, did that kind of stuff, because you said where the creative and the technology, where that came together but that sort of process, getting into that kind of work, did that help you with overcome some of your...
With what, sorry?
Demons, or with some of your demons, or some of your past? Engaging your brain in such a matter?
I don't know. I haven't actually considered that.
I feel like
it's a challenge,
on my personal note, because I go to 2 music centres, and I stopped until August for the moment because people have exams and then there's the summer holidays. I go to 2 music centres, junior music centre and senior music centre, and I find that, I mean, even if I don't sort of maybe consciously enjoy it at the time, I feel a lot better about myself when I come home.
Yeah.
It has a positive effect on me.
But going back to what you were asking, Pate, that I think, I obviously have like the artistic kind of emotional side going on, but I think in terms of the sound technology part, that kind of feeds another need that I have, which I probably wasn't addressing before, is some intellectual stimulation.
There you go. Yes,
a lot of concentration going on playing musical instruments,
and the fascination with the science behind it, and that whole kind of. And I think it does help.
So
in the performance aspect, when you understand a lot more about what's actually going on while you're actually playing,
Okay, so before we start doing a 3-hour podcast, we should maybe just have an end note. Never stop wondering about the world. It's just quite a wonderful place, or the universe actually, because there's just so much shit around, I feel like I've gotten high throughout this episode sometimes.
No, but there are much wise words be said by you.
Cool.
Well, that's another episode then.
Inspirational note. I feel so wow. Learn about the world, people. Do shit.
We are scientific hippies.
Yeah, just
scientific hippies. Wow, cool.
I feel like okay, so my 2 notes are: be careful about what you believe, examine your own, not 2 notes, examine your own beliefs, and never stop wanting to learn about the world, because it's quite nice.
Don't stop, never give up.
There's a quote from Albert Einstein that education is what's left after one has forgotten what one has learned in school.
Cool. I always say is in the similar vein is be curious, but in both senses of the word.
I feel like I'm just
in both senses
ultimate poster boy.
In both senses, curious has got 2 meanings.
Right. What are they? Sorry, yeah. Curious is like
so-
questioning things.
No, so be eager to know or learn something,
Yeah.
but also curious is strange, unusual.
Yeah. Be strange.
Yeah, this has gotten more into I guess because science isn't something that always comes into everyone's. I mean, it does come to everyone's day-to-day lives, but I guess the actual practice of science doesn't always get through to people. It's just sort of, this is us saying that you should apply science to your day-to-day life, even if you're
This
not.
episode is a black hole. It is a black hole.
Oh, fuck off.
Okay, 6 more minutes and we're 2 hours in.
Okay, well let's wrap up then.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've said our bit, and we said our sort of inspirational summary of what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But I would say that was quite an interesting episode.
Let's hope
Yes.
so.
and yeah, I was when you
It always
invited
helped.
me.
It always helps to have enthusiastic people on.
Would you
and,
stop interrupting
Sorry.
all the time?
Pete, you seem very enthusiastic about STEM.
Yes, no, I was very when you invited me again. I was very up for it. This is especially for this topic, and and it just proves it hasn't disappointed me. No,
Have you finished your wine?
the glass or the bottle?
The bottle.
No, I had 2 glasses. Yes,
I finished
not yet.
my.
So I will have when we finally finish this podcast. I will have another glass. I will reminisce for a bit.
I finished my
Reflect
bottle
on
of
the,
Menabrea.
Experience. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your wonderful contribution.
I
yet
just
again.
very quickly want to see what the
Very
next.
much my pleasure, and very thanks for inviting me once more, and I hope.
I think Theo's about to look up to see what the next one is.
I want to see what the next one that might be interesting to invite you on again for.
You can do that too. You can do that offline as well, because I don't want to pin myself down in front of the YouTube audience.
Fine, sure, whatever.
I'm sure they'd probably get a ban for that.
Okay. Oh, so it's all right. Anyway, let's wrap up before this goes weird.
He said be curious.
Anyway, right. So I have been Firebolt.
Up in the Orbiter.
And I've been Peetronics, but I noticed that we start calling ourselves by our own names, which is absolutely fine by me.
Cool.
Cool. Bye.
Till next time.
Oh, this has
Indeed.
been science, by the way. If you didn't notice.
I want to watch Weird Science now.
Okay, so is this after the outro?
Apparently.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, sometimes we leave little comical bits in after the outro.
Yes, that's what I mean. That is what
Like
I mean.
this?
Yeah.
What do you want to stick in the outro?
Oh, I didn't come up with anything yet. This is.
Well, you have, because we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, am I?
it's meant to naturally come about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't have anything in particular. This is. No, I do very think that I need to reminisce a bit, if you know what I mean.
Are you reminiscing now?
Oh, I am reminiscing now with it. Yeah.
Find the database.
What?
Pardon?
Why?
I'm talking to the Orbiter.
I think it fell into the black hole.
No.
Oh, here we go. Database.
Database.
What we look at? Yeah, he's looking
I
at
have a
what's
big
coming up,
database
what's coming
of
up.
all the sort of video plans I have.
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to get further ahead on that, but it's currently
Further ahead, you're about 2 years ahead.
only like I think September 2020. But at some point that will become a problem. I just sort of keep
Where are we up to?
putting that off.
Let's have a look.
So the next one is immigration. That might actually be interesting to get you on for, since you are, I'm assuming, a Dutch immigrant.
Yes. Yeah, everybody is an immigrant, but hey ho.
And then we've got consciousness after that.
And then health.
So there's always something. Oh, Jesus. And then sex.
Yeah, we maybe won't invite you on that one. So hope to see you next time then.
Okay.
Yeah, immigration, yes. Okay, another probably very interesting conversation.
We might actually be out of Europe by then, but I doubt it.
Don't know. That's due to happen in what day is it? It's the 7th.
Friday.
Shit.
As things stand at the moment, but it's not going to happen.
We don't know that. Like, everything's up in the air at the moment with that.
Okay.
But anyway, I really need a piss, so we might have to end the call because
yeah,
yeah,
I don't want to be rude.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.